Hello, YouTube. Continuing the last vlog, it actually was Jersey Mike calling on the phone on the when I cut the last one short, which I kind of figured it was, and so it's a good thing I took that call. Just wanted to make sure I was on my way there, and I was. I was actually a little closer than he was. So, yeah. So I guess as nervous as I was, actually, I think it went really, really good. The newlyweds were extremely happy with the way I did the music and everything else. I did do a little segment of karaoke, maybe about, I don't know, probably only about 45 minutes towards the end of the night after it had thinned out a little bit and some people were itching to sing. But I went back just playing music after that. But yeah, for the most part, that went really well. I did have a small period where I had a handful of the same people that kept coming up and making requests, and I played some, but I quite often had to tell people, it's like, no, I don't have that. and some people seemed really dumbfounded by that, and it's kind of funny how how things have changed. I mean, I remember back in the days, you know, when I DJed, it was pretty obvious what I had, and I mean, not what I had and didn't have, but I mean, pretty obvious that I didn't have every song in the world. You know, I had visibly behind me probably 3 or 4 milk crates of records. So whatever was in those milk crates of records is what I had. And if you asked for a song and it wasn't in those milk crates of records, people were pretty accepting of yeah, I don't have that. And now it just seems to be this expectation that everybody is on the internet and every song is available on the internet. And yeah, I wasn't provided an internet connection yesterday. There was a point where eventually somebody asked me about something, and she's like, "Well, can't you find it?" And I'm just like, "Where?" And I get kind of sarcastic when people ask me questions like that, and I was just like, "Well, where do you think I would find it?" You know, like my music library is very meticulously organized. Like, if I go to where the file would be and it's not there, I don't have it. Pretty much end of discussion there, you know. But, well, can't you find it? I'm like, where would I find it? He's like, well, on the internet. And I was like, well, what makes you think that I have the internet? and she just had this bewildered look on her face. But at least she was the first person that when I said that was like, she's like, well, would it help if I got you a Wi-Fi password? And I'm like, actually, yeah, that would be very helpful. And she did actually come back later with, you know, information about the Wi-Fi. And I was able to pull a couple of songs off the internet as a result of that. Not many, because by the time that had happened, all the people that were coming up bugging me about requests had already realized that they were kind of wasting their time. I mean, I try to be as courteous as I can, but it just seems like society as a whole has forgotten how to accept the answer no, and move on. I did try to keep really diplomatic with it, of you know, that I primarily, you know, I just told people I'm primarily a karaoke DJ these days. Generally speaking, you know, what I do is hip-hop from the last like 20 years, and that's, you know, which obviously is not what I was playing. This was a very older crowd. Like, I would say the crowd was mostly 50 plus. So yeah, they're not there to listen to Drake or Kanye West. So or Jay-Z for that matter. So oh, very white crowd. I think I should add that. Well, white and Hispanic. And so pretty much what I told him is that, look, I you know, I have a very limited selection of music, and for the most part what I'm playing is a prearranged playlist that was given to me by the bride and groom that they want played at their wedding. that was put together weeks ago. And they would be like, oh. In other words, you're not the one paying me the big dollars. You're not the one, this is not your wedding. And so if you could just fuck off over there, that'd be great. Thank you. But yeah, so the bride and groom were very happy with the playlist, you know, and I say there were a handful of songs they'd asked for that I hadn't had time to get loaded, but the bulk of what they asked for I did. And I just kind of use that as a basis of, hey, these are the genres and artists and eras of music that they're into. And then the other stuff I played, I pretty much followed suit with that, you know, with what I have. But yeah, somebody asked for a specific song, you know. It's, you know, and I was asked for songs that I know I have at home on compact discs. Which, you know, doesn't do me any good at the Elks Lodge. It did definitely make me think of a couple of CDs that I do want to get ripped for future such events. But for the most part, everybody was really happy. I did have like one moment that was super amusing. A bar owner that fired me many years ago from doing hosting karaoke at his bar. And it's my understanding that the bulk of his karaoke crowd stopped coming after he replaced me with a quote-unquote karaoke company. But I didn't recognize him at first, and he was going, "Hey, Terry?" I'm like, "What?" I love it when people like say like a word, like you're supposed to put the rest of the context together from that. It's like, yeah, could you please speak in full and complete sentences so I understand you? He's like, I'm like, Terry? I'm like, and I just looked at him like, who's Terry? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. You must not be Terry. I'm like, no, I'm Dan. And he's like, he lit up. It's like, oh, Dan the karaoke man. I said, yeah. He goes, oh yeah, don't you remember me? It's, you know, Johnny from East Side Tap. And I'm like, oh, wow. And honestly, I didn't recognize him at all. But I mean, you know, it's been about a decade. I'm sure, you know, we've both aged visibly in that much time. But no, it was cool seeing him. He was super friendly, and you know, I mean, it didn't totally break my heart when he let me go. And you know, just whatever, you're making your decision based on whatever you think you're making your decision on. Good luck with that. I'll move on and be fine. I always try to frame that as their loss, not mine. Oh, sometimes it hits me in the pocketbook, but anyway, yeah, he was one of the ones that was. He made a request, and it was the most absolutely random shit. He asked me for like a song from Jimmy Durant. And this guy knows that I primarily play, you know, bars where it's largely an old school hip hop crowd. Like, why would I? It's like, come on, Johnny, you know what kind of music I typically play. I'm playing like alternative, R&B, funk. Like, what makes you think I would have Jimmy Durant? And seriously, why do you want to hear Grandpa's records anyway? Anyway, it was. But all in all, it was a good time, and I hope that it results in more gigs. But I forgot to bring any business cards with me, so that's kind of sealing my fate on that. But you know, there were a lot of people that had a really good time. And I did get a lot for the people that weren't, you know, up asking for songs that I didn't have. The general people that came up, you know, that I talked to as I was kind of roaming around the building were just complimenting on me on the music. They're just like, hey, that's a great selection of music. Thank you for being here. That kind of stuff. So you know, one thing some wisdom I've gotten from older DJs in years past is that about requests, and of course the people making the requests don't ever take this into consideration, but when it comes to being a DJ playing requests, when you're playing a request for one person, you're playing a song for one person. Whereas when you're DJing and you're reading the room and you're picking out the music based on the general crowd that's there, you're playing music, you're playing songs for everybody. So you know, I'm not trying to play one song to please one person. I'm trying to play a set list of a bunch of songs to please everybody. So and you know, it didn't particularly happen last night, but there are times where somebody asks a song, and I think that Jimmy Durant would have fallen under that category, where somebody asks for a song, even if I have it, it's in my best interest not to play it, because it would derail the vibe that I'm trying to create as a DJ. I was sort of like, you know, imagine like I'm at Bullock's, and somebody comes up and they want me to play some Metallica. That's not going to happen. It's not that I don't have Metallica. I have loads of Metallica. It's just not the right crowd for it, and it would completely derail the vibe that I got going on in there. And the crowd that otherwise is, you know, loves what I'm playing and is dancing and is actively involved, you know, actively enjoying the show. Now, granted, I am, you know, kind of full service karaoke. So if somebody comes up and they want to sing Metallica, it's on, you know, then they can take their lumps for, you know, whatever crowd response they get for singing karaoke in a place where the bulk of the crowd is into old school hip hop and R&B, and probably doesn't appreciate Metallica. You know, they can take their lumps on that. You know, for me at that point, it's just like, hey, I didn't pick the song. This is what he wants to sing. So, and I've never denied anybody. I shouldn't say I've never denied anybody the opportunity to sing a song based on it not really fitting the crowd of the place I was at. I have made a couple of some very, like, generally speaking, in a bar, it's on. Like, if you're that far off base of what the crowd is into, you know, take your lumps. I'm gonna put it out there, and I'm, you know, I didn't pick the song, he did, kind of thing. But I have had times where I've done events that are all ages. You know, or I've been at a place that's all ages and there's families there. And, oh gosh. I had one, you know, and I actually I remember this, it was a gig I remember. Like, this is one that really didn't end well, because it was a bar I DJed at for a while. And by DJed, I mean run karaoke, you know, my mixed karaoke show. And they, what else I should get out of the car? And against my better judgment, I agreed to DJ a wedding for a couple that were regular singers there. And I did tell them that it really wasn't my thing, and that there were, you know, things I was not comfortable doing, and I certainly did not want to be the one, you know, reading their toasts and making announcements and stuff that I would, you know, if they've got a family member or somebody that's more intimately familiar with them that could do that, you know, I'd be more than happy to play music. And then, you know, and the agenda was also to you know, after a little later on in the event, to go karaoke with it. And it was also taking place in the bar where I hosted at. Anyway, I had the gal that was, so I had the mics equalized differently. I had a mic to go out to singers that was running through my effects processor, and then I had another mic that I had